Hello everyone and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains episode review. This time we will be going over episode 57 of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, and my goodness, I have a lot to say about this episode, and I really cannot wait to hear all of your thoughts for this episode, all of your theories, all of your predictions of what's going to happen, and the main question of whether you think what Bowman is saying is actually true or not, because I feel like a lot of theories and a lot of thoughts that people are going to have really revolve around whether they believe what Bowman is saying or they believe that Bowman's memories have been manipulated to the point where what he is saying is completely false. So that should be a really, really interesting discussion with you guys down below. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on that. But general impressions of the episode, I loved it. I think I like Bowman a lot more than a lot of other characters, a lot of other people do. I haven't really seen too many people be high on Bowman, which is understandable because he's a character that seems, or at least seemed to have no sense of self. Back when we first met him, when he dueled Playmaker, he didn't really have an image when we were first introduced to him, and then when he became Bowman, he wasn't really anyone. He had no recollection of who he was, and Haru, his quote-unquote younger brother, seemed to be kind of manipulating things and telling him what to do, and then we see him go up to this silhouetted character and start to demand, I forget what it was, I think he demanded that him and Haru's memories be restored or something like that because he did what this character said. It was as if he was gaining some of his self-control back, and then this silhouetted character knocks him out and says, we need to rewrite his memories. And for the last 7 episodes, we haven't seen Bowman. What's been happening? Well, it seems he has either been regaining his correct memories or regaining completely false memories. And those two things are very, very drastically different and will be very crucial going forward, because the character, this episode begins with the silhouetted character saying, wake up, Bowman. I even literally just went back to rewatch the beginning. Wake up, Bowman. Wake up along with your new memories. Now, again, are these his actual memories or not? Personally, I do not believe these are his real memories. When you have a character in the storyline whose main skill or main ability, it seems, in terms of villainous ability, is to rewrite memories, is to rewrite things that have happened, is to change memories, is to erase memories, is to manipulate memories, whatever it may be, is to have the ability to steal someone else's consciousness in the real world. I personally believe that these memories have been implanted and are not actually what happened. I do not believe Bowman is the real young Yusaku and that Playmaker is a clone of young Yusaku. That's how I personally feel. I hope I'm wrong about that, because I think if it is the actual case, that would be very interesting, and it would make for a lot of sense. It would make sense as to why Playmaker is Yusaku is very distant from everyone and doesn't really seem to have that human interaction ability that most people and most characters in this universe seem to have. It would make sense as to why his parents have never been mentioned once. That's something that a lot of people are just baffled at, that his parents have not been mentioned once. Well, guess what? If he actually is a clone, then he doesn't have parents. And he had no memory, and he had no childhood before this lost incident, and that might be why when Yusaku and Playmaker thinks back at his past, he can't remember anything. We have never seen anything of Playmaker before this lost incident, and that could be because that's where his life started. And so when you look at it from that perspective, then what Bowman is saying absolutely could be true. It absolutely could be true, and Bowman has been stuck in the digital fake world for all this time, and if he wins, he's going to take over somehow, I guess, Playmaker's body or Yusaku's body in the real world, and then Playmaker, the one that we've been following for the first 57 episodes that might not actually be young Yusaku, is going to be stuck in the virtual world, and then we might see like a little bit of a twist there for a few episodes where then Bowman, as Yusaku, goes into the real world and maybe starts burning bridges, starts being an a-hole, tarnishes the name of Playmaker. I mean, who knows what he would actually do in that case, while the Playmaker we've been following is now stuck inside of VRains. That will only happen, of course, if Bowman wins, which is why I really hope he does win, because whether this is real or not, if Bowman wins, not only is that going to be a huge twist in the story, but then to see what happens from that point is going to be so fun to watch. So I believe this is more so like the Zone Yusei thing, where for a couple of weeks we thought that Zone was actually Yusei in the future, and then they ended up pulling that plug. I think it was the following week, so we only really believed that for 1 week. In this case, it works out to the point where there is no episode next week, and that sucks, man. This episode gave us so much to ponder, probably so much to ponder since early in the show. And now we have to wait an extra week to find out how this duel is going to end, to find out more conversation and more details, again, potential details, because we don't know if they're real, between Bowman and Playmaker, and it sucks that we have to wait a week. But from a Yugioh VRains perspective, it was great timing to have this cliffhanger happen when we have a week break. So again, the next episode will not be until July 4th, but I just really think, again, this is a duel that Playmaker absolutely could lose. And the second the duel, before the duel even begins, Playmaker goes, I know you're going to want my Ignis if you win. And Bowman immediately goes, I have no interest in your Ignis. And once he said that, I was like, dude, this is it. I mean, I live reacted to it with a few friends. That video is probably up on my channel unless it's been taken down for copyright reasons, like my reaction a few weeks ago was. And I was watching and I was like, the second Bowman said that, I was like, this is the duel. He's going to lose. He just lost his entire plot armor. That whole Ignis clause is gone. Bowman does not give two craps about the Ignis. He just wants to defeat Playmaker and, I guess, tell Playmaker the truth, or what he believes is the truth, and then, again, maybe take over his body. I mean, that's a little unclear. He said, you're not going to know what I want until I win the duel. So that is another reason why I think Bowman's going to win this duel, because otherwise we will never know what Bowman's going to want from this duel unless he wins. So I'm just telling you, this seems like it's the perfect storm for Playmaker to shockingly lose, but what a moment at the end. As for the duel was good. Bowman and Playmaker really countered each other very well. I mean, they dueled very recently, so Bowman used a pretty normal deck, but he had a new design. I really liked the new design. My friend Pete, when we were live reacting, said he had like Thanos armor on, and that is kind of what it looked like. He had this whole new design. I loved the statues, the lifelike statues that rose from the clouds and put the hands down so that they had a master duel right above the clouds on those statues. I thought that was so cool. That was one of the coolest setups for a master duel we have probably seen in VRains so far. And as I just said before, the countering was good. Playmaker knew that Bowman was going to use that spray trap card that was going to change the attributes of Playmaker's monster, so he had a trap that destroyed that trap, but then Bowman had another trap that could only be activated if his trap was destroyed. So there was a lot of, I know what you're going to do, you know what I'm going to do, a lot of baiting and trapping in this duel, which I really did appreciate. I really did like the counters up. We didn't have any fusions. We didn't have any synchros or X. I don't know why I'm even saying synchros or XCs. We're getting a little too extra deck happy with how spoiled we've been with fusions recently, but we didn't have any summoning besides links. Bowman summoned monsters that had 2 attributes, which I wanted to ask you guys, are there monsters that have 2 attributes? Like, is that a completely new thing, or has there been monsters in the past? Because when I was watching, I was thinking to myself, like, I'd have never heard of a monster that held 2 attributes, but Bowman, by link summoning like a water Hydra Drive and a fire Hydra Drive, he formed this like night-looking monster that had water and fire attributes. So that was really, really interesting, and I thought very, very unique. And Bowman really does a lot of damage to Playmaker. I think he gets Playmaker's life points down to 500. Playmaker, also keep in mind, cannot use Storm Access in this duel. At least we've never seen him use Storm Access in a Master Duel, so there's not going to be some card he can pull out of the Data Storm that's going to be able to save him, which again, doesn't really bode well for Playmaker. How many times has he used Storm Access and it has saved his ass in so many duels that has happened? He doesn't have that luxury in this duel. Now, his extra deck is still loaded. We didn't see any of the Talker monsters. We didn't see any dragons or any really major badass link summons from Playmaker in this duel. He didn't, in this episode, I should say. We could see it next week, but obviously he still has a lot of very strong, powerful extra deck monsters lurking and link monsters lurking, so we will have to wait and see that. But Bowman really got the better of him in this duel. Now, when he started talking about the flashback and he said he was a lost incident victim, I thought that was so well done, because he says he's a lost incident victim, and myself and I'm sure everyone was like, all right, well that's been a pretty popular common theory, especially on this channel, as you guys know, that's been going around recently. So there's no real surprise there. He's the Lost Incident victim. He's the fifth guy. He's the final guy, Ignis holder, whatever. And then he says, but are you a victim of the Lost Incident? Do you really remember being a victim of the Lost Incident? And he starts getting very, like, philosophical. And I'm watching, and I'm like, what's he trying to say? And apparently, according to Bowman, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, even though I already talked about this a lot in the beginning, there was a change in the program that when Playmaker, or young Yusaku, or this is before Playmaker was created, when Yusaku lost, his data or his consciousness was kept on the server, and a replica was put into his body and put into his consciousness, and that replica was Playmaker, was the protagonist of VRains that we have been following, and the person whose consciousness was then stored off, that consciousness, that actual Yusaku, was Bowman, and now Bowman has been stuck in the virtual world because he hasn't had a body in the real world, and he's been, I guess, waiting to take down Playmaker all this time. So that's, in essence, I might have, messed up a little bit of details there, but that's pretty much what happened. Bowman was Yusaku for the first 6 years of Yusaku's life, and his mind was transferred onto a data server, and then a different mind was put into Yusaku's body. And so, basically, looking at Yusaku in the real world, from 0 to 6, that was Bowman. From 6 to 16, that's been Playmaker. That's basically what they're saying. Whether that's true or not is a whole nother ball game. Again, I said it. I don't think it's true. I think this is the villain manipulating with Bowman. I still do believe that Bowman was that fifth Lost Incident victim. And again, I will always reference the symbol of the fifth Ignis, the fifth male Ignis, where he's got a diamond symbol on his chest, and Bowman has such a similar, almost an identical symbol to that Ignis. So that's why I believe Bowman was involved in the Lost Incident. But man, when you have a villain, again, I've said this a lot with this silhouette villain, when you have a villain that's power is to change memories and manipulate memories, there can be some really, really trippy stuff that happens, and we are witnessing that trippy stuff. So all in all, guys, it was a great episode. I know I didn't really talk too much about the duel, but really the main focus of conversation for the next 2 weeks leading up to 58 is going to be, is Bowman telling the truth, or is Bowman not telling the truth? And whether he is or isn't, what's going to come of it? What's going to happen? What does this mean for Playmaker as a person? What does this mean for even I? Because then I technically belongs to Bowman, even though Bowman said he doesn't want I. And why is the silhouette character even doing this? Would Kogami have known something like this happened, and wouldn't he have said something to Revolver, or wouldn't he have said something to Yusaku or Playmaker? I don't really know. Kogami obviously is dead now, and Kogami probably would have been the only one that knew about this. Revolver at the time was way too young to realize that someone's mind was transferred onto a database. Or maybe Kogami didn't even realize that. Does I have any recollection of that? Because I was the one being created by this, by the kids dueling. Would he have known that someone's memory was transferred? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of open-ended questions, and the conversation down below in the comment section is going to be awesome. I cannot wait to read everything that you guys have to say. So anyway, I'm going to wrap my thoughts up here. Big thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Alexa Baker, Christopher Johannes, Bouska, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, D01, and James Rose, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Soledsnak and bouldergeist. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart to everyone who supports me over on Patreon, and a huge thank you to everyone who just watches my videos right here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for the incredible support. I will talk to you down below. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I hope you have an amazing day.